with it. That's fine. This is their interpretation. We can't analytically listen to. We have to relationally listen to her. We have to think about, why does she feel that way? What's really is she trying to say? I don't see this as a big deal. Most men and women fight over this. She has a problem with something, he doesn't see the big deal. He has a problem with something, she doesn't see the big deal. And what we do is we analytically listen to each other. We don't relationally listen to each other. It causes a problem, because then you don't feel understood. You see? The fourth type is critical listening. Critical listening is when you judge the person speaking and their content. So for example, sometimes we can listen to a person that they're not a good person, but they might be saying something that's true. When we're critically listening, we judge the person's character and we judge what they're saying. If the person doesn't fit the content, we don't want to listen to them. This is critical listening. This is why isma in Islam is so important. This is why our argument with our brothers and sisters in other schools of thought is this: the ma'soom nature of Rasulullah is imperative, because if he's not ma'soom, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa he came to the Bedouin Arabs. They were the most backward people of their time. The Romans had architecture and empire. The Persians have a rich history in architecture and sciences, and both of them have and other civilizations. At the time, the Arabs were divided into hundreds of tribes, and there was no development. So it was like an ayah that Allah Azza wa Jal sent it to the worst people, and He raised them up to be among the best of people. And now that we have all this medicine and science that's still being used today, and algorithms which built our ability to build, say, computers and see into the stars, it's all the Muslim endeavor. It started with Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and it started with Imam Sadiq alayhi salam. So the people he came to, they're not going to look at him relationally. Oh, you're a nice guy. Some people, they looked at him, we trust you, we know you. Relationally, we'll listen to you, because we know that you're a good person. You're Sadiq and Amin. Some people listen to him critically. They say, look, I don't know you, but I know that what you're saying is true, your content is correct, and we know your character is 100%. You have never done anything wrong in front of us, Ya Rasulullah, Ya Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And this is why when we're choosing leaders, we listen to what they say, we also judge their character. And the biggest crisis of the world today is that we have a lot of people, a lot of politicians and leaders, that their content is nice and they speak very beautiful words, but they are the worst people in character, but they make it to leadership. No one can say with a straight face that the majority of leaders of this earth are moral people. To any standard, to a Christian standard, a Jewish standard, a Islamic standard, to a Hindu standard, akhlaqiyan was saying, akhlaqiyat of say the Hindu faith. No one even holds any standard in leadership today. Barely, only a fair few. Only a fair few. I'm going to be biased and say it's our leaders, Al-Qaeda, for example, and others. But either way, the majority of the leaders of this earth, unfortunately, don't fit a moral standard. And even the ones that fit a moral standard, they're not perfect either, But that's why it's important that isma in wilaya, from Ahlul Bayt alayhi salatu salam, is so important. And I thought it's a bit of a segue, but I thought I'd really mention that, because we critically listen and we do judge the person talking to. And it is important that the religion from God has to come from a perfect place. We naturally have that style of listening. So I want you to think about tonight, before you go, when you listen, are you task-oriented? So when you're at work, are you thinking just getting the information in? But sometimes you have to switch. Sometimes you want to get the information, do the work, but you also want to build relationships. You want to build a connection with the person that you work with, or your spouse, for example. So then you have to switch and say, I want to relationally listen to you now. I want to see the emotions behind the words and understand what you really mean. So I want to be a bit more patient. Sometimes we're going to critically listen. So we're going to, if we're, not just in an Islamic sort of context, when you're going through the news, look, the channel, for example. I don't have to say Fox News, Sky News, CNN. Look at the content like, all right, the content's being presented, it's believable. Who's saying it though? Who pays them? Critical listening is very important, so you don't get fooled. Critical listening is good for us when we're choosing a spouse. Many people have been deceived when they're getting to know someone. Unfortunately, our sisters, they're the ones generally are more deceived than the men. Although the men do get deceived. Or at least the men feel deceived after a few years of marriage, But our sisters get deceived. Why? Because they didn't critically listen. He's saying beautiful words, but they didn't check his character. And as a result, they fall into a problem. And then you've got, of course, the task-oriented analytically listening as well. The ability to listen and not judge. It's very important. Sometimes you're going to interact with people that are not of your school of thought. They're not Muslim. They live a completely different life to you. There might be, for example, you're working in an office. This person might be gay. They live in the North Shore. They drink alcohol and they party on the weekend. That's their life. It's completely normal to them. They see no haram in it. How do you talk to a person like that? How do you keep your job? These are nuances maybe we should start more, inshallah, like more circle discussions. How to interact and how to navigate the world that we live here. You want to be religious and pious. Do we associate with certain people? Who don't we associate with? What's the level of association? Things like that. We need to answer these questions. But just as a short, for example, people that live differently to you, you have to build the ability to listen to them without judging them for their exterior. Why? Otherwise you won't get along with anyone. And you won't keep any career, and you won't keep any job. Being neutral doesn't mean you're approving. The ability to listen and work with people but not approve everything that they do. Because we're not allowed to actively go and approve. Unfortunately, some Muslims, when they're looking at other people's lifestyles, not only do they say, oh, I respect it, I'm fine with it, as long as it doesn't affect me. You didn't have to say anything. No. The same way those people don't mention, they don't go, some of them they don't actively go against Islam. They don't agree with Islam. They say, I want to drink. It's oppression for a woman to wear hijab. These are their views. Why should we pray? Why should a person pray so much? Isn't God merciful enough? Why should they pray? They have views like this. But do you see them actively trying to destroy Islam? Some of them do, yes. But generally speaking, when you walk around, do you see people trying to get in your face? No. People know how to actively listen and interact and coexist without approving or disapproving. We can disapprove if we have a conversation with them. You see where I'm coming from? These are very nuanced sort of discussions. How do we interact? The best way to start is to actively listen and learn how to listen. How to listen to people and see where they're coming from. And that way, you know how to compartmentalize your life. Your professional life, maybe you can say, I want to be task-oriented and analytical. I want to be objective, get the information. I'll be a bit relational, so people will like me, I'll be likable, understand maybe that if having a bad day, understand, read their feelings, and go home. You don't have to approve or disapprove anything. If a person asks you, hey, what does your religion say about this? For example, in the workplace, you can say, maybe we'll talk about it outside of work. Or maybe if it's okay during working hours, if the person won't get you in trouble, for example, say we can talk about it, but I just want to let you know, it might be something that might be hard for you to hear. It's learning how to listen. Because when a person is asking what your religion says about a topic, what they're actually asking is that, do you hate me? That's actually what they're asking most of the time. They can go search, what does Islam say about alcohol consumption? What does Islam say about interest? What does it say about gambling? Google, very easy. But when they work with you, what they're actually asking is, do you hate me for it? You can tell them, our religion doesn't tell us to hate the person for it, but to hate the action. And no, we don't approve of it. And we see it as a sin against God. But our religion also says that we're supposed to understand where people come from and not to judge harshly. And ultimately, Allah is the judge. And how you die is between you and God. You need to have that eloquence, but you'll never know how to speak that way and interact with people that are very different to you and walk through all the sensitivities without losing your faith and your religion and your understanding. And this is what we believe, and saying it with confidence, at the same time having them respect your point of view. You don't get to that point unless you actively listen. Because you never know what a person is really saying to you unless you actively listen to the person. And that is one of the greatest values that I've taken from actively listening. Me personally. I've had people that come and really open up and say, this is why I live this way. I've had people say this to me in a professional environment. Because subhanAllah, some people just want someone to hear them. When you actively listen, people will naturally come and speak to you. Because all of us are actually quite hurt And all of us actually have a lot of trauma, and we're just looking for someone to hear us out. That's more relational listening. Some people really like the wisdom of a Muslim. Islam is very attractive. But the way you bring people is not through the yap. It's not through the yap, 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 yap. That, all the da'wah guys, those guys that sit on the yapping, yapping, yapping all day. What they should be doing if they want to spread Islam is actually sitting down and saying, tell me about your day. I want to hear your problems. How can I help you? And I'm a Muslim, by the way. That is the best approach. We ask Allah Azza wa Jal, by the blessing of Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad, that He gives us husnul istima'. It gives us the best way of listening. We ask Allah Azza wa Jal to give us the ability to listen and also try to navigate the difficult situations we get into in our professional and our working lives. We ask Allah Azza wa Jal ultimately to hasten the reappearance of our Imam, inshaAllah, who will spread justice and equity, and he will educate the world the best way of living, which is the life of Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad. Wa akhir da'wana alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen wa sallallahu ala Muhammad wa alihi at-tahirin. Naam Sayyid. Like as in advice for parents, as in if the kids they're not interested in talking to them, and Hajj, I'm too young for this one, I'm too young for this one. I can share something, but I think I should be asking you, Sayyidina, but I do know that, like how I used to feel at 14 and 15, being Australian, born in Australia, and having parents that are immigrants. It's because I have a face that's not of the country, so I'm really put in a category, and that at the same time, my values and culture has been shaped by this country and the way I speak, and my parents, they sound foreign to me, I know the one thing I desired from my parents a lot of the time is, don't tell me what to do, let me make my mistakes, but always be a place of advice. Like, be non-judgmental. So when they come to you, don't ever berate them. Like never, don't scream at them when they stuff up. Be very compassionate and tell them, if you make a mistake, Allah's forgiving. Yeah, He's forgiving. But I'd rather you didn't, because I love you so much. They want to be told that they're loved. And as much as the boys here, like 14, 15, oh yeah, my dad's saying I love you. Yeah, you know what? Even if you think it's all soft and mushy, you'll go to sleep feeling a lot better that your dad said that to you, or your mum said that to you. And also, a lot of the time, Hajj, it's not verbal. Sometimes you want to take the boys out or the girls out, just take them to a park, just have some fun. If you take them go-karting, just take them fishing. These things mean they build that sort of relationship where they don't feel judged and they just have a good time. And that's when they're more open. That's the activity to open the heart, so they receive the parents. Of course, the teens as well, they have to relax a little. They have a lot of hormones in their body. They're very angry. They get very angry as well. So as a result, you want to, get them into sports, get them into the gym. If you can find a gym, go at certain hours where there's no haram walking around. But ultimately, activities actually do very well. The best teenagers I've seen are all in sports. They're always on the weekend playing footy or soccer. They're part of a team. They learn how to interact with people their age. They know how to take orders from a coach. They know how to act in a military sort of way. Just take orders and take their positions and focus on the game. So the advice for parents would be, understand they're Australian. They're not Afghani. They're not Pakistani. They're not Lebanese. They're not Iraqi. They're not those cultures. That's not their culture. Their heritage is that 100%, but they are completely different to you. So there's a difficulty there. I'm sure the boys here that are young, they understand what I'm saying. Like they feel more. Do you feel how Pakistani do you feel, bro? Do you wake up thinking, yeah, I'm Pakistani when you wake up? You don't even think that. Your parents, they have a strong sense of identity. That's who they are. They're proud of where they're from. You know what I'm saying? They're really, but you probably don't have that. I don't have that huge pride. I'm from South Lebanon. I should, South Lebanon's a great place, right? But really, it's not as strong in me, if I'm honest. So yeah, I think for parents, more activities with each other, no judgment, and tell them you love them a lot, and hug them, and if you're include them, working on the car, just ask them to hold the wrench, do this, just include them in activities, and don't judge them, and give them advice. And yeah, I think that's the best way to put it. I hope that's correct. I think the boys here, is that right? Do you think is your dad here? Oh, okay, so would you like your dad to do those things that I said, like more often? He's like that? Yeah, see, this is why you're here, bro. MashaAllah, you see? Because his dad is like that, subhanAllah, So, man, look, yeah, I think that's the right thing. I got confirmation from our dear brother. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, his name is Ghayur? Is your name Ghayur? That's mad. I like that name. MashaAllah, it's a very good name. Okay, yeah. Anything else, maybe? Any other questions, inshallah?
I just had one thought. A lot of times, as you said, listening is really important, especially when they're going on and on. Sometimes when a person is just, on a long tirade, you might listen to one thing that kind of catches your attention and it creates a thought. It stimulates a thought in your mind, and you want to follow up on that thought because your mind is so I guess caught up in wanting to initiate a new direction in that conversation. You might not listen to the rest of his tirade or whatever. You know what I mean?
So there's usually when people are screaming and they're going off and they're saying all sorts of things, all sorts of hurtful words, and insults are flying, and there's usually one emotion behind the whole thing.
I wasn't thinking so much of that, Hajj. I was thinking more of, for example, let's say you're delivering a lecture and there's one thing that really grips the audience or certain members of the audience so hard. They're just stuck on that one thought. They want to, move in that direction of the conversation. They want to stimulate that one, whereas you might shift back to something else,
Yeah, sorry, I'm not understanding the question, that's all, sorry.
All right, it's okay. Inshallah, we'll speak afterwards.
Yeah. So no, but if you frame it in a question, I might help, is it
all right, let's say, for example, you're talking about this subject of listening, but then
something grabs your attention.
Something grabs my attention, and it stimulates my mind. I want to follow up on it. Let's say, for example, you mentioned something about the media and the dishonesty of the media or something like this, and a certain member of the audience just want to follow up on that one.
And you can't exactly pause the person giving a lecture. And
yeah.
Well, I guess I think the best approach is just to ask the question after,
Yeah.
Just write it down. Yeah.
Write it down. Write it down.
I think it's the best. The best advice. I always say that because we go to uni and listen to a 1 hour lecture and we take notes. But our Islamic understanding, we never take notes. We just listen and we go home, So if there's something that grabs your interests you, and so you're actively more interested, then it's good to just write it down, inshallah. But we won't extend too long unless there's any pressing questions.
Nowadays they're emphasizing mindfulness. Can we arrange some talk about it?
Yeah, absolutely. Ahsan Sayyidina. And even to the extent that even if you listen actively to people, it's a type of mindfulness. Because when you're listening, you're not thinking about the past or the future. You're completely present with that person. And that's how people connect. It's why if you're married, it's important to have date night. They call it date night, where you leave all the kids at someone's house and you go spend 2 hours together. Because kids, for some reason, when you're talking to your wife, they just want to talk in the background. They want to actually, the only time they talk is when you're talking to your wife. Subhanallah. The only time they want to ask you things, I don't know. Inshallah, you guys, when you grow up and have kids, you understand, how you guys ruin your relationship with your parents by interrupting them all the time. Yeah, but no, that's, inshallah, we'll have talks on. If there's any other sort of topics you want me to discuss, I'd love to take on any hints. Okay, so there's one on mindfulness, and yeah, I'll definitely write that down, inshallah. Walhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. أفلح من صلى على محمد وآل محمد. Yeah, inshallah.
I guess as the aftermath to listening, you have reflecting upon. I think that was partly covered in your talk as well, though.
Inshallah, inshallah. Sorry, Sayyidina, I have to rush. I'm actually getting a. Yeah, I'm so sorry. Ya Allah, Ya Kareem.
صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. Please take something before. صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. Jazakallah khair, dear Hajj Mustafa, for that incredible talk, detailed breakdown of the importance of listening, of course, and the question answers that followed. Just one point I'd briefly like to bring us back to before we move on to our dear and respected brother Aoun. Our dear Hajj mentioned the example of mainstream media channels today like CNN, Fox News, Sky News, these rubbish channels. Unless we have that capacity to listen to multiple sources and understand the complete picture of what's going on in a certain situation, whether it's in let's say Gaza, whether it's about the economy, whether it's about income inequality, things like this. If we have a thorough picture on these issues, we have that ability to navigate the waters between truth and falsehood, and that's critical. So inshallah ta'ala, as our dear Hajj was mentioning, we can take that first step, listen, understand and reflect, and inshallah ta'ala it can change our mind and perspective on things, inspire us to be the change that we want to see in the world, inshallah. With that said, I'd like to invite our dear and beloved brother Aoun Hassan Sayyid to deliver manqabat for this blessed occasion. Please welcome him with a salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad.
صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على Muhammad. I'll be really short, just 2 to 3 stanzas, that's it. Please recite again the salawat of Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Allahumma hui hai khalq ye duniya हुसैन की खातिर हुई है खल्क ये दुनिया हुसैन की खातिर इमाम असर है जिंदा हुसैन की खातिर हुई है खल्क ये दुनिया हुसैन की खातिर मतलब कहा रसूल से रब ने न सर उठाना भी अरे तुम्हारी पोस्ट पे बैठा हुआ है इब्ने अली बढ़ा दो ये सजदा हुसैन की खातिर हुई है खल्क ये दुनिया हुसैन की खातिर यही दलील है एक दूसरे से उल्फत की रिज़ाए रब के लिए कीजिए यादाई खुदा सजदा हुसैन की खातिर हुई है खल्क़ ये दुनिया हुसैन की खातिर। किस हुसैन की मादर से उसको ऐसा मिला, सिला हुसैन की मादर से उसको ऐसा मिला। हर एक शहीद ये मरतब में कर रहा दुआ के मौला हुसैन की खातिर, हुसैन की खातिर कि खुदा का शुक्र तकल्लुम नसीब वाला, खुदा का शुक्र तकल्लुम नसीब वाला। मैं अपना मकसद तख्लीक याद रखता है, सांस सांस मेरी याद हुसैन की खातिर हुई है खल्क़ ये दुनिया हुसैन की खातिर।